Utrecht. A city of bridges, bicycles, and centuries-old charm. From the cobblestone paths of Utrecht to the rhythmic chimes of Dom Tower, everything in this city whispered peace. But inside my head, it was anything but quiet. My name is Saskia van Dijk. I'm 32. A project architect working in a boutique firm just off Biltstraat. Deadlines, meetings, phone calls, presentations. My world was a constant sprint. I lived alone in a modest flat overlooking the canal. Everything was in its place. Except me. Lately, I had been waking up with a tight chest, aching shoulders, and a mind that refused to rest. No sleep. No appetite. Just pressure. My best friend, Latte, noticed. "You're wound too tight, SAS," she said. "You need to unwind." Seriously. She handed me a card. Cream-colored. Embossed. Classy. Therapie Huis van Hartelust. Pureness in touch. A well-reviewed wellness center in central Utrecht. I'd passed it dozens of times without ever noticing it. Something in me, perhaps desperation, told me to call. I did. An appointment was made for Friday at 1800 hours. After work. I didn't expect much. Maybe a chance to breathe. That would be enough. I arrived early. The center was quiet, dimly lit, with the scent of eucalyptus and the gentle trickle of water echoing through the reception area. A woman appeared. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair tied in a low bun, pale eyes that studied me a second too long. Goedenavond, Saskia. I am Annemiek. Come, we begin. Her voice was calm, almost motherly. I followed her down a narrow hallway lined with soft lights and silence. I thought, this could be good. My muscles already seemed to loosen just slightly. I changed behind a screen. Lay down. Closed my eyes. Then she began. At first, it was professional. Precise. Her hands moved with skill, kneading knots of tension from my upper back. But something shifted, not in her technique, but in her tone. "You carry a lot in your body," she murmured. "Too much food, perhaps?" I opened my eyes. Was that a joke? She chuckled lightly. Stiff shoulders. Stiff thoughts. I see it often. Women who punish their bodies with too much comfort. I wanted to say something, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, trying to breathe. Something was off, but I couldn't quite name it. Not yet. The room was warm, yet I felt a chill creep along my spine. Annemiek's fingers were firm, skilled, almost clinical. But her words, they lingered like fog in a winter field. "You have knots of resentment here," she said, pressing below my shoulder blade. "People who hold too much inside often grow rounder." Rounder. The word struck me. I shifted slightly on the table. She noticed. "It's nothing to be ashamed of," she continued. "We all carry weight, some more visibly than others." I stayed silent, but the silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy. Every word she spoke wrapped itself around my thoughts like ivy on a wall. Was this what therapy was meant to feel like? She moved lower down my back, pausing briefly at my hips. "Too much softness here," she muttered, as if diagnosing something broken. The treatment ended 20 minutes later. She left the room without a word. I got dressed slowly, feeling exposed in a way I couldn't explain. When I stepped into the reception, Annemiek was nowhere to be seen. The young receptionist smiled. "How was your session?" I hesitated. "Fine." And I walked out. But I didn't go straight home. I wandered the streets of Utrecht, the canals glowing under the amber streetlights. I passed cafes, students laughing, the occasional tram rattling by. Something wasn't right. Not just in what was said, but in the powerlessness I'd felt. A stranger had judged my body under the guise of healing. And I'd let her. That night, sleep evaded me again. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan as it spun shadows across my walls. Her voice echoed in my head. Too much food. Too much softness. I turned on my side, then on my back, then sat up entirely. By 3 a.m., I was pacing. It wasn't about vanity. I wasn't new to comments about my body. But this had felt different. Clinical. I had walked in expecting release, and walked out with shame stitched into my skin. The next morning, Latte called. How did it go? I paused, then spoke slowly. She made comments about my body. During the session. Silence. She what? I told her everything. Every phrase. Every insinuation. Latte's voice dropped. That's not okay, SAS. That's not therapy. That's cruelty. I nodded, though she couldn't see. I think I want to report it. You should. I began by looking up the Wellness Center's official page. There it was, Therapy Huis van Hartelust. 5-star reviews. Soothing testimonials. Words like healing, safe, respectful. None of it matched my experience. I sent an email. Polite. Clear. I explained what was said. How I felt. I expected silence. I didn't get silence. 2 days later, a reply came from the practice manager. Brief. Dismissive. Annemiek has over 30 years of experience. She meant no harm. We are sorry you felt uncomfortable. I read it 3 times. You felt uncomfortable. Not she made you uncomfortable. Blame, redirected. That night, I found an audio file on my phone from a voice memo I had accidentally left running before the session. I listened, and there it was, clear as a bell. Too much food, perhaps? My heart pounded. I had proof. With shaking hands, I typed up a formal complaint to the Dutch Association of Alternative Therapists. I attached the audio. I included dates, names, every detail I could recall. Submitting it felt like stepping into unknown waters. Murky, cold, but necessary. A week passed. Then 2. Finally, I received a letter. They had received my complaint. It would be reviewed. I would be contacted for a possible hearing. It felt surreal. In the meantime, I tried to go on with life, but the memory clung to me. I avoided mirrors. I lost interest in food, in people. I felt hollowed out. One day, at work, my supervisor pulled me aside. Saskia, you've seemed distant. I gave her a tired smile. Just tired. She nodded. But I knew she could see something was wrong. An official envelope arrived. Heavy, cream-colored, like something from a law firm. You are invited to attend a professional conduct hearing regarding your complaint against Annemiek Vos. Date. Time. Location. All set. I stared at the letter for hours. Lotte came over that evening. She listened as I read it aloud. Then she looked me in the eye. Are you ready? I wasn't. But I said yes anyway. Because some part of me needed to be heard. Really heard. The hearing was held in a modest building near Utrecht Centraal. White walls. Polished floors. A small sign. Klachtenkommissie Complementaire Zorg. Inside, the panel, 3 professionals. Neutral expressions. Polite nods. Annemiek sat across the room. Calm. Composed. She didn't look at me. They asked me to begin. I read from my statement. Voice steady. I played the recording. The room was still. Then Annemiek spoke. I never intended harm. My comments were clinical. Observational. She misunderstood. But the panel didn't blink. She was under your care, one of them said. And that care includes respect. I felt something shift. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't questioning myself. 3 weeks later, I received the decision. Annemiek would be suspended for 3 months. Her license placed under review. The center issued a public apology, carefully worded, of course, but printed nonetheless. I read it 3 times. And then I cried. Not because I was sad. Because I had been believed. 3 weeks later, I received the decision. Annemiek would be suspended for 3 months. Her license placed under review. The center issued a public apology, carefully worded, of course, but printed nonetheless. I read it 3 times. And then I cried. Not because I was sad. Because I had been believed. The world didn't change. The trams still rolled through the streets. Tourists still gathered at Domplien. But I had changed. I walked differently. Spoke differently. I had learned something important. That silence can be a slow poison. That dignity doesn't have to scream to be heard. I still had days where I doubted myself, but I had something stronger now. A voice. 1 year later, I passed the wellness center again. Its window displays had changed. A new name. A new logo. But I kept walking. I didn't stop. I didn't look in. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't the same woman who had walked in that day, tense, hopeful, unaware. I had gone searching for healing. Instead, I had reclaimed something far more powerful. Myself.